Hello and welcome to the Bell Mama Hypnobirthing and Positive Birth podcast. My name is Ellie Waddington. I'm a hypnobirthing teacher, antenatal instructor and positive birth coach, and I'm here to help you go into the birth of your baby with a positive mindset. Every week I share my top tips, advice and amazing birth stories to help you go from fearful and anxious about your birth to positive and confident. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and let's get into this episode. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode. Today we are going to be talking all about birth hormones, specifically what they are, what they do, and how you can best work with them to allow physiological birth to unfold and just make your birth a nicer, more pleasant experience really. So a hormone is essentially a chemical. It's something that is released in your body and it triggers a certain response. It triggers a reaction, something to happen within your body. And hormones are released in our body every single day. And I'm not just talking about pregnancy and birth here. I'm talking about general day-to-day life. There are loads of hormones that we release in our body day to day to help our bodies function, essentially. And we're obviously not even aware of that, but it triggers certain responses within our body. And so when it does come to pregnancy and birth, these hormones are absolutely essential. Lots of things have to come together, have to synchronize, have to work together in harmony to allow physiological birth to unfold. And so that's why it's really important in hypnobirthing. We learn about these hormones and we learn how to work with them and how to not fight them, how to work with them to allow physiological birth to unfold. If you understand these hormones, if you can work with them, that is one of the things that goes a really long way to making your birth a more pleasant experience. So let's get chatting about these hormones. So the first one that we are going to talk about is the hormone that it's the most commonly spoken about one when it comes to birth and pregnancy. It's one that everyone knows. We hear it all the time in hypnobirthing. We see it all over social media. We see it in newsletters, in videos, in YouTube videos. And that is oxytocin. Yeah, this is an absolutely amazing hormone. We release oxytocin all the time in day-to-day lives. And it's also key for birth to happen. It's key for you to birth your baby, and that's because oxytocin is the hormone, one of the hormones that gets birth started, it gets labor started, but also it keeps your contractions going, it keeps labor unfolding. And so you need to think about ways in which you can really promote oxytocin in your birth environment to keep labor unfolding, because when we have a lack of oxytocin, when things happen in our birth environment that stop us producing oxytocin, that's when labour can stall. Now, oxytocin is also known as the love hormone, and that's because we produce oxytocin when we do things that we enjoy, when we kiss someone, when we cuddle someone, when we have sex, when we breastfeed our baby, when we watch films that we enjoy, when we do things that we like, do activities that we like. So when you're planning your birth environment, when you're thinking about where you're going to birth your baby, whether that's at home or in hospital, what you're going to put around you in your birth environment, think about, is this something that brings me joy? Is it something that makes me feel cozy? Is this going to promote oxytocin production? And so that's why you'll often see people having pictures of loved ones around them in their birth environment, music that they absolutely love, fairy lights, people around them that they love, for their birth partner. Maybe some people have their children present at their home births. These are all things that are going to really promote that oxytocin production and help you to keep your labour going. And if you do get to a point in your labour where it seems to slow down, if it seems to stall, think about what you can do in that moment to try and really boost your oxytocin. So maybe your birth partner could do some massaging or some cuddling or some kissing or what have you. Maybe you could put on a television program that you love that makes you laugh. Maybe you can look at some videos of your older children. Think about what you can do in that moment to really boost your oxytocin, really boost your mood. And often people find that will then start labour going again in those situations. And another benefit of oxytocin is that it creates this illusion of time flying by. That saying, people say time flies when you're having fun. It's actually true. This release, this production of oxytocin when you're enjoying yourself, it actually does create the illusion of time flying by. So if you can really optimize your birth environment to produce oxytocin, that means that you're not going to be just looking at the clock thinking, oh my god, this is taking forever, when's my baby going to be here? You're just going to completely forget about it, focus on the task at hand, and it's just going to fly by, in theory anyway. And I also recommend that if you do get to your birthplace, so your hospital, birth unit, home, wherever, and there are clocks anywhere to see, I would really recommend that you do remove those clocks or cover them up. That's a job for your birth partner, so make sure they know that they are there to cover up those clocks or remove them. Now, the second hormone that we're going to talk about is one called adrenaline. Now, for the most part, we do try to minimize the amount of adrenaline that you are releasing during the birth process. And I did speak about this a little bit in a past episode. And I talked about how when you release adrenaline, this is basically the fight or flight hormone. And this will create a reaction in your body where it starts to panic, it starts to go into panic mode, and it'll want you to run away from this event or to fight your way out of this event. And lots of things happen when adrenaline is released that basically are not great for allowing labour to unfold. So do go back and have a listen to one of my past episodes. I'll put a link in the description which episode that is, about what exactly happens when adrenaline is released. It's actually really, really interesting. But essentially, adrenaline actively blocks oxytocin and it can really slow labour down and even stall it. So we want to try and minimise the amount of adrenaline that we are releasing during the birth process. Now, commonly people are producing adrenaline if they're unprepared for birth, if they go in blind, if they haven't done any preparation, haven't done any courses, haven't worked on their mindset. They go in and the adrenaline is being produced because they're scared of birth itself. They're scared of the thing that's actually happening to their body. And that's a really awful position to be in because there's nothing really you can do in that moment. There's very little that you can do. And so that's why in hypnobirthing, we really aim to change your mindset. We really work on going into birth with a positive mindset. So by the time you do get to going into labour, you're not scared of the process itself. That's not going to be releasing adrenaline within you. Now, another common thing that will release adrenaline during the birth process is if you are choosing to birth in a hospital, it's actually going into the hospital environment and being surrounded by medical staff and strangers. If you think about it, we associate hospitals with illness, with death, with operations, with being sick. And so psychologically speaking, we go into a hospital environment and we start to release adrenaline because we become very, very nervous about what happens in a hospital environment. And so if you think that is going to be a problem for you, I really recommend that you do look at home birth. Home birth is a really viable, safe option for lots and lots of women. Perhaps look at birthing in a midwife-led unit or a birth centre. Or if you are going to choose to birth your baby in a hospital, think about what you can do, things that you can take with you to try and make that seem less scary. If you think that being scared of hospitals is going to be a problem for you, but you are choosing to birth in a hospital, think about what you can do to make it seem less scary. So think about things that you can do to decorate your birth room, music, affirmations, your birth partner. Make sure that they're really clued up on ways that they can support you. Have a really detailed birth plan. Make sure that you make all the decisions around your care beforehand. Plan A, B, and C. And make it known when you arrive that birth room, when you settle into your birth nest, that is going to be your room, that you want your privacy, you want people to knock and announce themselves before just coming into the room. Think about whether you're going to be happy for students to be present and students to take an active role or just to observe, things like that. So just really think about things that you can do ahead of time that are going to change your mindset when it comes to hospitals if you think that hospitals are going to cause you to be fearful. Now, there is one part of birth where we do actually want a big shot of adrenaline, and this is in the bit of the labour process called transition. Now, transition happens, it's quite a short bit of the labour process. It's usually, for most women, it happens, it's between 5 and 20 minutes. And this is essentially the bit between the active stage. So usually by this point, your cervix is more or less fully open and your body is preparing to start pushing your baby out. So this is just before the pushing stage. And usually during, you know that you've reached transition. For a lot of women, funny things start happening. So a woman that's been quite happily coping with her contractions up to this point, she'll suddenly start saying, I can't cope with this anymore, I can't do it, I want pain relief, get me out of here now. They might start shaking, they might be sick, they might jump out the birth pool and go and lock themselves in the bathroom. If something changes very suddenly, that's usually a sign that a woman has reached transition, and that's because she'll get a massive shot of adrenaline. And the reason that you get a massive shot of adrenaline is because your body knows that you are about to start pushing out your baby. So it essentially gives you that shot to get yourself somewhere safe. If you think back to when we were cave people, you know, out in the wild, there were saber-toothed tigers all over the place, neighbouring tribes, any sort of danger. Your body is basically telling you, get yourself somewhere safe because your baby is coming very, very soon. So it gives you that shot of adrenaline to get you somewhere safe, but also to give you that energy to start pushing out your baby, because you may have been labouring for, 12 hours, 15 hours, whatever, and you might think, oh my God, I'm exhausted, I have no more to give. But that shot of adrenaline during this period is what's going to perk you up and make you think, yes, I can do this. This is happening. I'm about to meet my baby. So that is really the only bit of labour where adrenaline can actually be a good thing, where adrenaline is actually your friend. So it's really important that you and your birth partner both remember exactly what transition is, when it's going to happen, and what it means. Because it means that if you do start to lose your focus a little bit, if you start to panic, lose your breathing, your birth partner can remind you, your birth partner can be there saying, look, this means it's about to happen really soon, this is transition, and they can help you bring your breath under control, they can reassure you, and that is why it's so important for both of you to know that. Now, the next thing that we are going to talk about is endorphins, and I love endorphins because they're like your cheerleader. They are nature's way of saying, you can do this, this has been really, really tough, it's really, really hard, you're really, really tired, but you know what? You can do this. You are going to get up and you are going to carry on doing this. And that's why you get often people that are running marathons or climbing mountains, they get to a wall and they think, I can't do this anymore. But they find the will, they carry on going, and that's endorphins that are doing that. Did you know that endorphins are reportedly 200 times more effective than morphine at blocking pain? And I love this, I absolutely love this, because this is absolute proof that the universe and nature do not send you more than you can handle. Nature is not going to create this scary, painful, hard-working thing that is childbirth without giving you the means to be able to cope with it. So endorphins, they are absolutely amazing, and they're basically released whenever you're doing something physically exerting, that's taking a lot of energy, a lot of calories, taking a lot out of you. They keep you going. So yes, we love endorphins. Now, the next hormone that we're going to talk about is called relaxin, and that wasn't something that I really knew much about until after my first baby. So once I was kind of recovering and I went back to the gym and I was starting to do some gentle exercises, and the person that was coaching me basically told me about relaxin and how when you're recovering from birth, you have to be just a little bit more careful, because the relaxin going around your body left over from the pregnancy, it can cause injuries. Basically, you're more likely to be injured because your ligaments are a little bit looser. So it is just something to be aware of if you are exercising when you're recovering from pregnancy. Just be aware of the relaxin. But I was not aware of all the other things that relaxin does during pregnancy, and there are so many things. I've actually printed off a list here. I've got a list of things that relaxin does during pregnancy and birth. So first off, it actually helps to prepare the lining of your uterus for implantation. So it relaxes the lining of your uterus for the little fertilized egg to implant itself into the lining. The next one is helping to grow the placenta. So if implantation does occur, it helps to actually grow the placenta. The next thing it does is preventing early contractions and preterm labour by relaxing the uterus muscles. So obviously contractions are when your uterus goes really, really tight. So obviously it contracts by definition, and so relaxing actually prevents that from happening too early on. It also relaxes ligaments so that your uterus can expand to accommodate the pregnancy. So it relaxes everything around your abdomen. It makes it all more flexible so that your belly can expand, basically. It relaxes blood vessels to accommodate for the increase in blood volume during pregnancy. Wow, that's something I never even thought of, but it makes a lot of sense. It helps to relax your pelvis before delivery. So if you think, your pelvis is literally having to jiggle and move and expand and adjust, so relaxing helps it to do that, basically. And it also helps your cervix to soften and expand before delivery as well. So that is an entire list of things that relaxing does during pregnancy and during the birth process that I had no idea about. So I actually really enjoyed reading that list. That's given me a little bit more knowledge about the hormone relaxin and what it does. Now, the next one we're going to talk about is melatonin. Now, I always associated melatonin with sleep, and I know a little bit about melatonin because I used to be a breastfeeding peer supporter, so I used to talk about the melatonin in the nighttime breast milk, so I know a little bit about it. But what I didn't know is that melatonin actually boosts the effects of oxytocin, and this is why a lot of people actually go into labour at night, is because that melatonin for when you're sleeping, it's helping to boost that oxytocin. So that makes a lot of sense. And the last one that we are going to talk about is prostaglandins. Now, prostaglandins are actually what help your cervix to soften, to dilate, to shorten, and make it basically so that it's doing all of those adjustments, allowing your baby to exit your uterus. And what's really interesting is, the fruit dates. I don't know if you've heard this, but lots of people are encouraged to eat dates in the run-up to their birth. I really do recommend that. I did that a lot in the run-up to my birth with Annabelle, and it really, really helped. But dates basically encourage the production of prostaglandins, and so they are scientifically proven to help your cervix to ripen, to soften, to expand, basically, and make that process quicker and easier. So I really hope that you have enjoyed this episode, that you've learnt a little bit about birth hormones, what they do, what their role is, and how you can best work with them to allow physiological birth to unfold. That's all from me, and I will see you next week. Bye!